Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast. I am one of your hosts, Cole.
And I am Grayson, one of your other hosts, Cole. Today, we are talking about Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 4.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we are. What is it called? A different approach? That's what it's called, right?
Yeah. We did our homework, clearly. It's not like it came out 3 or 4 days ago.
Well, speaking of being different, this was actually vastly different than what we expected it to be as an episode, I believe.
Yeah.
Because we had very different expectations before in our most recent episode.
Yeah.
Discussing episodes 1 through 3, we were like, oh, we know what's going to happen with episode 4, but we did not. We actually did not.
Yeah. I initially thought that it was going to be, Hunter and Wrecker focused. And to be honest, like just fully getting into spoilers here, because to be honest, that's why you're here. I didn't think that they were going to reunite with Hunter and Wrecker so soon, because it was completely flip on the characters, and then they reunited at the very end of the episode, which took me by surprise.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think we'll go into that near like the end of the episode. So yeah, let's just go ahead and start off with like where we're at. The episode starts off amidst hyperspace. The shuttle that Crosshair and Omega stole, with the assistance of our beloved Batcher, is really beat up. Yeah. And they have to emergency exit out of hyperspace because they just got to land, or else And I'm gonna be honest. I did not expect for us to pick up right off the heels of that escape from episode 3, but I'm really glad that we did, because I don't know if I could handle another week of like wondering where they were and what was happening with that. Like if it had gone to another episode of Hunter and Wrecker, just trying to find out where they were, I would be like, man, I gotta know what's going on.
It's interesting. Like I would have been like, with the trend of the way Bad Batch works typically, like, last week we'd seen it was, focusing on Omega and Crosshair, and then we flip back to Hunter and Wrecker, and then back to them, right? And we were like, I guess we were thinking probably going to be more of a natural flip-flop, right? A kind of, in a way, a chase throughout the season, and this hunt of trying to get them reunited, and typically with the previous seasons of Bad Batch, plot twist, she's part of the Bad Batch. No
way.
That would be weird. Well, they do like Padme. Remember, that was a deleted scene. That was a deleted. Yeah, that's so funny.
I still think it's canon. That'd be so funny, man.
Anakin forced him to wipe it off because he was pissed. For people who don't know, there's a deleted scene back from the prototype episodes, the pre-rendered episodes of Bad Batch, that on the Marauder there is like Padme bombshell art on the hull of the ship, and she's like very like scantily clothed with like a pistol in her hand, and they're like, she's hot,
I think Hunter's like, that's our girl, or something like that. And Wrecker's like, the Senator of Naboo,
Dude, Bad Batch was so real for that.
Anakin's like, I want that off now.
That's why he's gonna kill them by the end of this season.
No!
They re-put it on there. They're like, for our Senator, and he's like, get that off there, as Darth Vader.
Wow.
But yeah, this I mean, they crash land on this unnamed planet. Do we know the name of the planet?
It's been given a name now. Let me figure,
like the database or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's Hoth. It just looks really different now. Camino got grass.
Oh goodness.
You guys see how prepared we are for these episodes?
Man. What are you gonna do? You know what? I cannot find the name, but I recall that Star Wars Explained, because of course he does. He names it in his
of course he does,
review video, and we're just gonna call it Planet.
Planet. Yeah.
So Crosshair and Omega land on Planet, and
land.
Well, it's more like a less controlled landing, a managed landing. But they crash land and they immediately head to the nearest spaceport, which we're greeted with a kind of new looking TK troopers in the very cool like trench coats and stuff. I love those things, man.
With like goggles ponchos as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Minbon troopers a little bit.
Yeah. I that was immediately what I thought as well, which I'm a big fan of the mud troopers and the Minbon troopers with like the capes. I know that's kind of a hot take for some people, but I loved that look. But it was I don't know exactly what the climate is for this planet, but there's a lot of people wearing goggles and like a lot of kind of heavy face clothing, which makes me believe that there might be like frequent dust storms or something. We don't really see it, but like even that kid is like coats. Fully covered, you know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cold because I remember I swear there was like a moment in there where Omega was shivering when they crash landed, you know. So I think it's pretty cold out there. On Hoth.
I told you it's Hoth.
Yeah, this is actually before the Hoth Ice Age that is in Empire Strikes Back. It's leading up to it. Yeah, honestly, there isn't a whole lot that happens in this episode. I mean, like it's a I mean, it's still a pretty good episode. Like, I still enjoyed it, but I think there's not a whole lot to talk about. But we'll still go beat for beat. Yeah, this spaceport, this city that we're in. I'm not exactly gonna say that it's seedy, but people are definitely. It's under the control of the Empire. People are kind of fighting for their own. You see that kid that's, peddling information or whatever, like goods, in order to get a certain amount of credits, and then Omega and Crosshair need to get passage through the spaceport.
Yeah. Basically, they're like, the Empire is going to track the ship. They're going to know we've landed here. We got to get to a ship in the local spaceport, and we can stow away or bribe someone to get on one of those, and we can make our next plan from there. But was it a droid or was it a alien species? I can't remember.
I believe it was some sort of humanoid species with a voice modulator.
Okay.
That was controlling the spaceport, like ins and outs.
And as we see, like, this is what the Empire does to planets. Of course, this is nothing uncommon. It's very similar to what we see in the beginning of Solo and Corellia. Some stuff that we see in Andor. This is, pretty run of the mill for when an Empire comes in and takes over a town. It gets really crappy, and there's a lot of bribery and corruption. And so, of course, this figure is like, okay, yeah, like we'll accept your bribe if you don't have your chain code, but you got to get us. I think it was 20,000 credits.
30,000.
30,000, right?
Yeah. So she's like, I'm assuming the species was she. So it sounds like a woman. That she's like 15,000 credits. And Omega's like 15,000. She's like for each ticket.
Yeah.
Wild. And even and this is another callback from season 1. Admiral Rampart is still haunting us to this day with the chain code shenanigans that has been implemented from the Empire. So chain codes and whatnot, it's this oppressive control. And Crosshair the whole time is like, we should just shoot our way out, and Omega's like, I want to do it my way. We're not going to do it like that. We don't have to. I don't want people to lose lives here. We're just going to try to do this.
This episode is very predominantly like focused a lot on the different way they approach missions and how they want to make their next moves, and then them kind of creating a compromise. Like, Omega is very like set on doing this in a more docile way, whereas Crosshair is like, listen, I'm kind of just over it. Like, let's just shoot our way out of here, right? And we get to that a little bit. They create some trust there, but they're like, all right, well, let's go make some money, and they make their way to the cantina and they try to figure out, and they do some gambling. Omega does some gambling, really, while Crosshair watches.
Yeah, with a new Star Wars card game. It's a new one implemented in the series.
We love our Star Wars card games.
Oh yeah, we love Sabox. We love Pazak.
This is
but this new one,
Balans.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's funny that all of
Omega's
these,
a pro at it,
which makes you think.
Yeah, it makes you think.
Yeah, and from what I can tell, we don't know how to play it, but apparently the game does have a full rule set. Like, this is a brand new card game. It seems to just be a 1v1 type game, which is kind of unusual to something like Sabacc. Pazak is usually 1v1, but it's more of a deck building game. Sabacc is more of like your poker blackjack. This seems to be more of like a strategic type of it's interesting. But there was an entire like today Star Wars put on their Instagram for their trivia that it was an entire game of cards that was created for this episode. They play tested a few rounds and said it's extremely addictive, and a complete rule set was made.
That's crazy, man. I mean, now they just have to publish the game because I want to play it.
I'm fully believing that on May 4th in Galaxy's Edge or in places that sell Galaxy's Edge merch, they will sell a Balans, which I will be getting.
That'd be great.
I would love that.
So just to maybe bend your ear on this a little bit, because it does make you think, like, why is she so good at this? There's two reasons that I'm thinking. One, it's she's potentially force sensitive, but also two, she was back in season 1, she was taught by Sid how to play. And kind of like cheat your way through gambling games and stuff like that. Because Sid was teaching her how to play holo chess, and she got really good at it. So maybe she's just really good at strategy. Who knows?
I think that makes sense. Like, we still haven't gotten to the point where we know what Omega's kind of thing is, right? Like, her specialization is not just, oh, she's a girl, like there's clearly something, and of course that makes you be led to believe, like, now we know she has a sustainable, transferable high M count, but also like, okay, does that mean she's force sensitive? Well, if she has that M count, that certainly means has a higher accessibility in the force, but
what is also the M count too? I mean,
like, I think they mention M count in Mando as well, and they still never say it, but we're pretty sure it's midichlorians. And
absolutely is.
But it also makes you think. I'm like, well, maybe this was a way to. Maybe she was supposed to be, a test subject of, like, she was kind of a strategist in a way. Like, she's kind of like their battle planner in a way, and maybe that was what they were kind of testing. Hunter is the leader, but like, Omega catches on to things really fast. We've seen this. The fact that she learned all of the plans that Tech had taught her in a relatively pretty quick time, like, she's a quick-witted kid. And her ability to escape the facility literally in the previous episode was pretty wild for a kid who's maybe 13.
She is very, very apt for her age, and just as a clone, and even as far as clones go, like, she's incredibly skilled. So what kind of what's her strength there? I'm very curious as to what that design was for her, and I think I think we're gonna find that out in this season. It seems to be kind of pointing in that direction. But inevitably she does win the amount of credits that are needed.
She cleans house.
I'm honestly surprised, because like she robs this Trandoshan blind, and he's just like, here you go. Like, he's fine with it. So like, this guy must be absolutely rich, or he's just rolling with the punches. Maybe he's a stoic. But and then my new least favorite Star Wars character comes in, which is this kind of slimy
fat Baron dude.
This slimy Imperial officer comes in.
He sucks.
And tries to win against her. He loses, and he's like, I concede, and here's your money. Oh, by the way, gambling's illegal. It's a fine. 10,000 credits, which I was like, man, that
brother,
is just
you're gambling.
Exactly. It's the hypocrisy, man, and like, because they think that they can do anything. They think that they're above. Again, it's like more Andor resemblance there, that they think that they can do anything, that they're above the law because they are the law, kind of thing. And they pay the fine, and as they're walking out, they go back out to see where Batcher is, and he was taken by the officer, because of course he did. The kid that was peddling info earlier gets it from them for 5,000 credits, which, like, I'm not sure how much really credits are worth in the galaxy, but like maybe that kid just got a massive payout. For that.
I've always viewed roughly, I mean, this is American money, but currency even in real world is kind of translates to different things. I've always kind of viewed like 10 credits as $1. Mm-hmm. So like
maybe it's kind of like yen.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? Where it's a higher percentage. So like when I think of like 5,000 credits in my mind, that's more like $500, right?
Mm-hmm, probably.
So like 100,000 credits is $10,000, and so now that lady is still asking. She was asking for 15,000. So basically she was asking for like $300. Wait, 300, 3,000. She was asking for $3,000. I can math.
Man,
but it's hard. It's hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, then it kind of makes me think, because like how much again in A New Hope did Obi-Wan promise Han for transport to Alderaan?
A lot of money.
It was like 12,000 credits.
Oh,
was
really?
That what it was? I don't.
He promised he some up front and then the rest in advance, right? And then they just used the money that they did to sell Luke's land speeder, and they got like a really bad price for it. And Obi-Wan's like, "It's fine, Luke, shut up." Like it'll get us off this planet. But yeah, that's a good point.
Obi-Wan said we can only pay 2,000 right now, but I can get you 15,000 when we arrive.
Okay.
I still feel like that's a lot.
It is a lot, because the promise was I remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that the promise was because they were trying to get that 15,000 because she was a princess, right? She was royalty. They got lots of money.
Yeah, because I remember when Han was like 17,000. Like he was like, "Ooh, this has got a lot of cash." But this lady here is asking for 30,000 credits.
Maybe I'm wrong. Then maybe it's supposed to be like real money,
Dude, imagine this kid's like, "Yeah, I'll tell you where they took your dog for $5,000.
I would be like, I'm gonna strangle you, like, which Crosshair does.
I was like, that's almost verbatim what Crosshair said. Is like, yeah. I'm out of patience, kid.
I think I gotta side with Crosshair. I look at Omega and I'm like, you're being stupid. Quit giving away all of our money. Like because she won 35,000. Yeah. Thankfully it all worked out, and I think they got most of the money back. I think they left with 20,000 because he takes 10,000 and then he gives the kid they give the kid 5,000. So I think they have 20,000 credits, which is kind of a dub. And then they just take that ship and leave. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but they go to
why not? Let's move on ahead. So they get to this cargo bay.
Before that, Omega.
Right,
yes,
you're right.
That Omega's like, I'm gonna get Batcher, and Crosshair's like, I'm not wasting time with that. Like, that's, you need to give up on Batcher. Like, we'll find another way. And Omega gets mad. She's like, she gives him the money and is like, use it to get off here. I don't care. Like, I'm gonna get Batcher. I'll find my own way if that's what you want to do. Yeah. And then that moment right there is very, very crucial for their relationship, because you can see this is yet another moment where Crosshair is really trying to be that stoic, kind of brooding, doesn't care about her sort of thing. But like we see right after she begins to walk away, she heads to the shipyard where Batcher is being held. And he kind of stands there, and of course he concedes, and he turns and he goes after her, right? It's
a direct mirroring of the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. After Kamino is bombed, and she's like the last one to talk to Crosshair, and he basically just doesn't really reciprocate, and she leaves him. Goes on the Marauder and goes away, but now he's following her.
Yep.
And he did a double take in this scene, but he eventually concedes and goes with her, which I'm really glad that this episode is just giving us some more time with Omega and Crosshair as a dynamic, because I think it's very important for her to have kind of one-on-one time with every Batcher, you know?
Yeah.
Just
every
to develop
Batcher
with them. Yeah, every Batcher.
All the Batchers. No, yeah, I get what you're saying though, because that was kind of what they did with the last season. Was they were setting up a little bit like season 1. Like Echo was like non-existent, right? Like he was just like barely.
My poor boy.
Yeah, like he was just there. Like there's sometimes he would never even say anything other than that one time. Is like, is there an Echo? He's like, I'm Echo. Just
it's like, is there an Echo in here? Yes. What? I'm Echo.
That's so. I love that moment so much. But then yeah, like she gets a lot of time with Tech and Echo in season 2, and then of course that kind of sets up, which kind of makes you think what's going to happen with Crosshair this season, you know?
I don't know, man. He's still got the tremor. Like, we're still getting scenes where that's building up. Like, he's shooting at these guys, and it looks like he's kind of cursing his hand because he's missing. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't miss, man, but he's missing, and it's bringing him down.
I've never noticed this as well. I was listening to last week's episode of Beyond the Dune Sea, and they were talking about Seth was talking about Hemlock's hand and how one of his hands is gloved. I believe it's his left hand. And he's always like rubbing it like that, you know?
I know. I'm just so like, sorry. I know you're about to bring up a point, but like that's such a great characterization of him. I don't know.
Absolutely. I love it. Like the one like singular black hand, and that's clearly intentional. But now Seth made a good point that they have even like with some of the stuff they're doing with the clones in like the first 3 episodes, they were like injecting their like hands and stuff, you know, like there was a lot of hand stuff going on. And then now Crosshair, he has that like that trimmer in his hand, and it's like, what's going on with that? Because we still don't really know.
Same hand too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Is it? Maybe it is. I can't remember.
It's his left hand, so that's really interesting. There is so much going on in this show that's just behind the scenes, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I really gotta know.
Yeah, it's the subtleties, and I think we're gonna get those answers. We're still not even a third of the way into the season in terms of episode count, but I
know, which is insane, but
yeah. So we go to the shipyard, and Crosshair does show up, and
he's like, fine, we'll do it your way.
Yeah, Omega. He does that, but then finally he's like, "By the way, you're wasting my talents."
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. I was like, "Well, this is like, she's right." So they try to sneak in to the shipyard, which is just swarming with troopers. But all of these kennels, these crates, are just filled with all sorts of creatures. And there's one specifically, a really big one that's shaking. But yeah, then as they're sneaking around, they get ousted by this Baron because he got word from Hemlock that they had escaped and he knew who they were, and so they corner them. And I don't remember if at this point Hemlock has made it to the planet yet, because there is a
not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but he's on his way. The guy says that like Hemlock will be here soon, essentially.
Yeah, because they had discovered the crashed ship, but Hemlock hadn't got there yet.
And he's like, how about you give me all your money, all my money back?
Classic, just mustache twirling Imperial scumbag.
I know. Yeah.
And so, but ultimately, Omega's like, you know, let's do this your way now. And he's like, finally, you know, and he kind of gets to let loose, and yeah, he's missing some shots, but Crosshair's still pretty lethal.
Crosshair, I think Crosshair missing shots, Crosshair having a tremor in his hand has essentially taken him from his skill level to the skill level of an ARC trooper, which is still really good. So yeah, he's not. Yep. I wouldn't say he's slightly nerfed, but I think he's just no longer OP.
Yeah, and it's just him. But they're and thankfully there's a lot of cover, and so they're kind of fighting off these clones, and eventually they let out all of these animals, and it's full on just zoo chaos.
Very Omega fashion, like a very Omega type strategy.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to use the environment around you, I guess. And so this Baron guy is struggling to get this money, and it gets knocked out of the way, and I'll be honest, this is why I really need to rewatch the episodes right before we record, because I watch them right on Wednesdays. But is he killed? I don't remember.
I think it is very much implied that he died because the crate of this massive creature opens, and you hear a roar, and you see a tentacle come out and grab him by the leg. And as he sheepishly tries to grab onto the door, he accidentally closes it, locking him inside. Because it closes and the latch is shut, and then just you see the crate shake, and I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Okay, I couldn't remember in that scene if it was a trooper, if it was him, but it was definitely him.
It was absolutely him, and I think what was in there was either a boar gullet or a Rathtar, either of which
easily a Rathtar.
Either of which that man's dead.
Yeah. We see what those Rathars do. Yeah, I think from the size of it, Borgullet doesn't really eat people. It does have those tentacles, but the way those tentacles came out and then just immediately were the way we see in The Force Awakens, I was like, that's a really cool connection right there.
That was cool. Definitely some comeuppance there, and it's all because he was trying to get the cash. If he wasn't so desperately trying to get it, he probably would have gotten away.
Yeah. He needs to hit the gym, but it's okay.
Yeah, he needs to hit the gym. Downfall of the greed.
Yeah.
And just some deserved comeuppance, and that's 2 for 2. We got this guy and Lieutenant Nolan.
Dude. Okay, so I was gonna ask you, you were saying that this is your one of your new least favorite characters, which I agree, but I still do, and I want your opinion. I still don't hate this guy nearly as much as I hate Nolan.
I think if maybe we had gotten more time with this guy, we'd probably hate him more.
Yeah.
This guy is the grubby kind of evil, whereas Lieutenant Nolan is more the bureaucracy kind of evil.
He sucks.
And I think if there's one thing that I really hate more with someone that thinks so uppity of himself, it's someone who thinks so uppity of himself and almost unfortunately has authority to do so, I guess.
Yeah.
And so in that position, when you're Crosshair, you feel so much more hatred towards Lieutenant Nolan, because in that position, unless he wanted to break the law, which he did, he couldn't do anything. And so that makes you hate Lieutenant Nolan more, which obviously the same case is in this with this guy, but I don't know, it just the stakes seemed so much different with Crosshair, because I think it was that deciding point of, do I stay with the Empire or do I become a rebel?
Right.
So yeah, I think I still hate Lieutenant Nolan more, just because pardon my French, absolute shit eater. I hate Lieutenant Nolan, dude. He sucks.
He is my genuinely the one Star Wars character that made me so unbelievably angry. And when Crosshair kills him, I was I literally screamed. I went, yes, because I hated that. And dude, pour one out for my bro Mayday. I know this is a whole side thing, but he was the homie, and I they created that bond between Crosshair and Mayday so well. But yeah. So anyway, this fat, scummy, greedy Imperial bozo gets eaten by this Rathtar, and Crosshair and Omega, they get the money, which is cool, and they make a quick escape on this freighter.
I got the money.
Tell the fat guy I've got the money. And so they take that ship, and they get off pretty quick. They also get Batcher, of course.
They get Batcher,
and they leave with haste. And Omega is very quick to send a signal out to alert Wrecker and Hunter, because Crosshair is we can't stay on the ship. The Empire can track this ship.
Well, I just have to bring this up just before we get to the end of the episode.
Yeah.
When they're lifting off, we get the shot of this stormtrooper that's standing right in front of the thrusters, and they burst off, and you hear this guy go whoop, as he's just launched off, which is just, it was so...
I died, bro.
Yeah, it was so out of pocket, but I was laughing so hard because I forgot to... I mean, I was waiting until this episode to tell you, but I was like, that guy sounded like Grayson when he screams. and I just imagined, I was like, that was just so perfect. I really hope that stormtrooper's not dead, just because of, how much energy was in there. But yeah,
that voice actor had bills to pay, bro.
Yeah, he got his rent was due.
Your rendition of that was so funny. Oh my gosh, yeah, just
but yeah, they do end up making it away, and Batcher is very clearly appreciative of not only the like Omega but also Crosshair. Like Batcher's licking Crosshair's face, and Crosshair's like yeah, which is sweet because like you know that even though he is very much I'm looking out for myself, I think he's kind of like Han, where like he wants to be the solo dude, but he does care about people. And he just can't really fight that part of himself. So I think that's very interesting.
We talked about it last week where he kind of shares some similarities with Cassian, where he kind of has this prison around himself. And I think the reason he acts this way is because he knows what the decisions that he made were wrong. And he believes that like, well, I've already made these decisions. There's got to be some part of me that still refutes going back to my old ways of being part of this family again and caring about people. Like, yeah, I can be against the Empire, but I'm just going to go on my own path and just isolate myself because this is what I deserve.
Yeah. It's 100%. It's a full send mentality. When you are so kind of far gone in making these decisions, it's like, well, I have to keep going now. I mean, that's the same thing with Vader. Like, Anakin, you could see that boy crying on Mustafar, but it's like, it's too late now. I've already done all. Do you know how much I've done now? There's no other way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a commonality in Star Wars, actually. Just another theme that we're picking up and putting on the shelf of common Star Wars themes.
Which is like, it's a very human thing to explore. Like, like sometimes when people do things wrong, like there's a point where they're like, oh, I can't, like I've already made it this far. There's no coming back. Like, and I just have to commit to it, even though I know this is wrong. And that's how a lot of people kind of lose their way. But, as Luke says, no one's ever really gone. Right.
Nope.
But like, I get it to an extent of like, they've already done these actions. Like there's no other way for me. Like I've just like, there's no acceptance, but like Omega's trying to get to him. Like, she cares about Crosshair. She doesn't think of less of him than the other members of the batch, and so I think this episode, I expressed it to some people that like this episode, while not immediately like just one of like the absolute banger, Bad Batch episodes, and we're gonna get to the end here in just a second, but the bulk of this of what up to this point where we're about to wrap up like was very crucial for the development of Omega and Crosshair, which was needed.
Yeah, I think it I was still hearing some people go like, oh man, Bad Batch doing filler again, but like I think with this, like, was it maybe more of a filler premise? Yes, but I really think that this is different from the other seasons in that this still propels the narrative forward in a necessary way. Right. And so having that time, I think, is very important. And also, I'm just going to say, like, another part of Omega's character, at the beginning of the episode, she mentions to Crosshair, like, we need to we need to save the coordinates from Tantus because we need to go back. She intends to go back. Like, she intends to go back and save the rest of their brothers because, of course, she does.
Yeah.
Like, and which makes me happy that I'm pretty sure we're going to end up going back to Tantus with full-on clone rebellion, baby. Let's do it.
There's that one shot in the trailer where there's the shady Clone X guy, and all of these like troopers are running, and he's like walking against them. We still haven't seen that yet, and I mean, again, we have a lot of episodes to go through. Yeah, we ain't done with Tantus. But yeah, so I believe the scene right after this is now Hemlock on this planet. And he is with his Imperial troops and Scorch, our boy.
Scorch, who's been in like almost every episode for the past several episodes now.
Yeah, he's been there at all times. And I don't remember what specifically the dialogue that they say, but it implies that they're on their trail, and Hemlock's gonna get him.
I think Hemlock essentially says something along the lines of notify all of our operatives about that, and I was like, oh, Delta Squad, but like I know he's just talking about Imperial ops, but
I thought that too, and immediately I was also like, Gideon, Thrawn, ISB,
right? So this is now the second time that it's being hinted at that Hemlock is going to be using more resources than usual.
The full might of the Empire.
Right, to get Omega back. So what are these resources going to be?
Oh, they got to be pulling out at least one big gun, right? And not literally a gun, but like just somebody or something, right? Some sort of character. And yeah, like we've seen in the show thus far, we have seen Tarkin and Krennic in last season. And while, I mean, I do think we could maybe see Tarkin this season, it makes me think like there's probably going to be at least one big Imperial head honcho. I still believe it.
There's got to be something.
Yeah,
got to be something because it's there.
And hopefully Delta Squad. But anyway, we switched back over to this Omega and Crosshair as they are on this freighter, and they have pinged Hunter and Wrecker, and they are meeting them on this moon, and we get this almost ominous, kind of scary kind of meetup where we're seeing it it kind of puts you in the perspective of Crosshair in a way, which I didn't realize until just now, where they're landing on this very desolate looking moon that doesn't even look like it has an atmosphere.
It's the same one where they dropped off Hera, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, that's it's from the first season, because it's like, it's this secluded moon. That was where they dropped off Hera, I think, because that's
interesting.
I'm pretty sure that was what it was. It was like a callback to that episode.
That's cool. I'd forgotten about that. I really need to rewatch season 1. Like it is like it is not fresh in my brain at all. But yeah, so they're landing on this moon, and we don't see Hunter and Wrecker out of the ship. We just see the Marauder just sitting there, and and immediately when I'm watching this, I'm like, something's wrong. You know, like this is
with
not
the hatch open.
Yeah, like there's just nobody there, and it's like, what's going on, right? And but sure enough, they land, and Omega comes out, and we see Hunter and Wrecker, and we get a very, very sweet, tear-jerking moment where she hugs Wrecker, and then also hugs Hunter, and he's like, we never stopped looking, you know? And it just hits right here.
Yeah, man. There's this point that I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it before we close with the final part of this scene. A very important thing is that we recognize that Hunter and Wrecker have never stopped looking. But what kind of bothers me a little bit is that Echo has been with Rex the whole time. You know, like he was with them at the end of season 2 for like, you know, that final op. But then I guess he was like, hey, you know, good luck looking for Omega. I'll help you when you find her. Yeah. But until then, I'm gonna go back with Rex and the Clone Rebellion. Like, I know that is what is super important to Echo, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way to know that they were looking for Omega all this time, and Echo was more focused on the Clone Rebellion side of things. And maybe I'm being a little too vindictive about it, but
yeah,
I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about that. I think it really depends on the context of, at least currently in this period, what Echo and Rex and all of them are doing.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I will. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, we know that they are rescuing clones, and and I could easily see, like, I don't want to discredit Echo here, but I like Echo is kind of the last kind of, I don't want to say estranged, but he's kind of the odd one out when it comes to the Bad Batch, and like he out of all of them was probably the least close to Omega, and he had made that decision before that. And I think he's still willing to help, but I'm like, I get why that does kind of bother me too, but I'm kind of giving him and the writers the benefit of the doubt that, like, well, he is actively trying to save other clones, right? You know?
Yeah, there is still a focus to be had on that. And to be fair, we did hear from Wrecker that Rex and Echo had agreed to meet them at those coordinates of the Slithervine planet, but it would be in 2 rotations. So like, they were immediately like, yeah, we'll be there to help. I guess it's just his focus was on the war effort.
Yeah, they might be very preoccupied right now.
Yeah, it was just I don't know, it was something to think about. But so at the end of this scene, after we get our like nice reunion, we see Crosshair walk out of this shuttle, and his eyes meet Hunter and Wrecker, and they do not look happy. They look very on guard.
Yeah, this makes me think of at the end of season 1, and I rewatched the scene, which again I had forgotten about, which like makes me like, okay, I need to rewatch Bad Batch. Is when one of them, I believe it's like I think like AZ. Oh yeah, it was AZ falls into the water and Omega dives in and she can't get back up, and Crosshair like shoots the grapple to anchor on to AZ and pull her back up. And all of the Batch members are aiming at Crosshair, right?
Yeah.
And like they're on guard, and like, you know, they don't have their guns in Crosshair in this moment in the most recent episode, but like they're definitely like, okay, this is still, the trust has not been regained, you know, just because he's with Omega, there's a lot of explaining and a lot of reconciliation that needs to be had. And to be honest, like Wrecker is a very protective, I mean, so is Hunter. They're like two very protective characters. But like, yeah, they give him the absolute death glare, but like Crosshair doesn't really look mad at them. Like I think like,
he's been kind of stewing with that regret and guilt.
And that's, I'm just thinking about that. I'm like, you know, he easily could have been giving them like a glare as well, but no, like he kind of is again in that prison mentality. Like he's like, yeah, I deserve this, right? Which like, I'm not saying that he doesn't. Like it makes sense. Their reactions to how they feel about him are very warranted.
I would say so. Yeah.
But like, and it's a really good like way to kind of just hard end the episode as it smashes to black. But we know that they're gonna get along again, right? That they're gonna make amends.
They'll get along again. I guess you can also say that, you know, Hunter and Wrecker's reactions are a lot more warranted, especially just how the past 6 months have been for them, because they lost Tech, and then Omega got captured, and Echo's not there. Echo's with the rebellion, right? And so they have been, especially Hunter, like not resting, looking for Omega everywhere. Their armor's gotten dilapidated. They're starting to kind of let themselves go in terms of their mental state. And so it's kind of, I mean, if you want to look at it in a certain light, maybe they perhaps see Crosshair as just kind of that thing that got everything rolling in just how everything started to really go bad. And so a lot has happened, and I think losing Tech definitely put a big damper on the crew, and I'm sure Crosshair knows at this point. Like, I'm willing to bet Omega probably told him during those 6 months every time that she's visited him, but we haven't had a scene where he is like actively recognizing it. So I think it would be really interesting to have a scene probably in the next episode. I expect to have the three of them kind of discuss Tech and his death. Like maybe Crosshair looking at Tech's goggles, you know, which I think would be a really tough scene to watch. But I know it's going to happen.
There's going to be a lot of hard moments, I think, and I think Crosshair is also going to have to fill in a little bit. It's interesting because we've never really had Crosshair be with the Batch while they've had Omega. And like, I'll be honest,
you're right.
Like thinking about Clone Wars Season 7 Bad Batch, like that was that 4-man stack right there was like so iconic, and now we don't have Tech anymore, but like it's going to be really nice to see the three of them fighting together again, right? To kind of have in a weird way, a return to form. Unfortunately, no Tech and no Echo, but it's like we've got Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, and Omega. And, you know, Omega's reaching this point now, like we've just said throughout the whole episode and more recently, that like she's forming more into a competent character, more of her own soldier in a way, her own member of the Bad Batch.
Right.
And that's not to say that she hasn't been part of the Bad Batch. Like, she always has been since the beginning of the show, but like now she's really starting to kind of, this sounds like I'm bashing her in the past seasons. I'm not, but like she's starting to pull her weight more. And
she has like great actions to back up her goals and her words and stuff like that. And also she was trained on all of the operations by Tech. She's basically like the wonder child of the Bad Batch, right?
Yeah.
Because she's taken a lot of different things from them. She's even already learning stuff from CROSSHAIR. Like she kind of adapts to each Batcher that she interacts with.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited to see where this kind of new 4-man group dynamic goes along from here.
Yeah. I believe the next episode is called The Return.
The Return, yeah.
Which, now knowing the context of the last episode where we had our speculation, now I'm like, okay, what does this mean? You know, does this mean the return of Echo? Does this mean the return of Tech? Like,
does this mean the return of Ventress?
Yeah.
Is it a return to Mount Tantus already? Which I highly doubt. But
yeah.
Honestly, no idea. I mean,
this season, based on our speculation and now what we've seen, it's moving pretty fast. So, like, to be honest, I don't think it's totally impossible that they go back to Tantus so quick. You know, it would be very quick. But I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Like, so
now finally, wrapping back around to what you had originally brought up is, I really did not expect for them to get reunited so quickly.
4 episodes in, 2 weeks in.
Yeah, these were 2 plot threads that are already in a way resolved. Omega's back with the Batch, and CROSSHAIR is reunited and no longer affiliated with the Empire. Those are 2 things that have been resolved. So that tells me, it makes me ask, what are we gonna do left? Like, what is gonna fill up the rest of this season? What's gonna go on? Is it gonna be like full clone revolution based on Mount Tantus, which would be awesome, but we don't know. We're in unknown territory. It's kind of like when you and I were covering Ahsoka, and we're at this point where we don't know what's gonna happen.
Episode 5,
which is so great for us, you know, because I know that you and I both just love that I don't know what's gonna happen kind of thing.
That's the thing, is I'm like, there's a part of me that I love speculating, right? But there's also, it's easier to speculate when you kind of have an idea of where it's gonna go, and we could speculate on where it's gonna go with. We're at this point where we're in uncharted, unknown territory, but for the most part, it's kind of like, all right, we're just in for the ride now, and I like that. I will say, I think they wouldn't have wrapped up these plot threads, these very major plot threads, by getting Omega back and reuniting the team and CROSSHAIR as well so soon, if they were not building to a bigger plot. Like, as a writer, I'm like, okay, we're doing season 3, guys. Like, what do we, like, we know this is where it ends, and they've had a plan for a while. But like, you know, these are the things we got to take care of, but we also have to address this thing. As a writer, I'm like, well, we got to take care of these other 2 things pretty quick so we can spend a lot of time building up to this clone revolution, you know, or whatever it is, which is exactly what I think is going to happen. It's just a matter of how are we going to go back to more of some of those filler episodes now that, like, it's them and they're trying to figure out, like, I mean, it seems like I would think, okay, we're all together now, you know, and Echo or Rex are out there. We're going to help our brothers like Omega wants, and we're going to start teaming up with them. And maybe there's a chance, I think we see Rex and Echo a lot more in this season. Like, they might be hanging out with them a lot closer now.
I certainly hope so. Yeah. I think, I mean, if this really is going to be just kind of the wrap up of the Clone Wars, we got to go ahead and get Rex and Echo in here now.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Wolf in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's another thing.
I know Cody's gonna be coming back in somehow.
Like, that could also be another thing to the return. Like,
dude, I mean, like, the return could be more than one person, right?
Yeah.
Just the return of the clones, right?
Yeah.
That'd be very cool. But overall, I think episode 4 was what it was meant to do. I think it did very well. And this is just a great, even though it was technically episodes 1 through 3, this is just a great launch point of the season. You know, the gang, most of it is back. So where do we go from here? I think overall, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
More good stuff.
It makes me more excited for next week. I feel the exact same way. I think before this, I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be one of our shorter ones because, to be honest, I don't have a ton of thoughts. And although I think we've had some very good discussion, but I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I like that episode. I think it built up Omega and Crosshair's relationship well. It got them together. It didn't feel needless. It felt like some people were like, oh, back to filler, or like, oh, it put the plot to a halt. And I'm like, how? Like filler implies that they're just doing something that's totally irrelevant to the main story or the main plot threads. This pertained to one of the biggest plot threads, which was getting them back together, right?
Right.
And they did it in a way that I was pretty satisfied with. I think it felt more satisfying than something like Grogu and Mando getting back together in a show that wasn't theirs. Like, you know, and even then, like, even if they say like something like The Mandalorian had done it that quick from going to Mando season 2 to season 3, not counting Boba Fett, I would have been fine with that had they had done that by like the second or third episode, because they could then, as a story like what we've seen with Bad Batch, of a lot of time has passed and they're not doing well, and it's like, if that's how you wanted to do that for something like Mando, they could have done that. So that's why I'm not really mad about it in this show, because they did it in a meaningful way, and they were very clear, hey, time has passed, Wrecker and Hunter are actively searching for her, they're not doing okay, and they're continually working on Project Necromancer. It was all stuff that it made sense, and it was good storytelling. So that's where I'm like, some people might be mad that like, oh my gosh, they got back together so quickly, and it's like, hey, like if you're gonna do that, it gives me sense to believe that there's more going on, that we gotta get the snowball rolling.
I agree. So in terms of like just the general thoughts on the episode, like how do you feel comparing to episodes 1 through 3? Like does it shape up? Do you think it fits in well?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I put this on par with episode 2, but even then we said last week, like, we both liked episode 2. It just wasn't, compared to episodes 1 and 3. But to be honest, I'm not someone who makes a huge comparison game when it comes to episodes. I know there's going to be episodes that are better and some that are going to be not as good, but to me, this is still like, a B tier episode. Like if we were putting it in a tier list, I'm like, this is good. I like this. And it gives me thoughts to believe that this is, I think, going to be the best season of this show.
I agree. I mean, that seems to be like what everybody else is saying too, even though that's PR speak. But it's still I'm hopeful. I believe them when they say it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'd have to go back and look at like the first 4 episodes of the first 2 seasons, but I remember season 1 specifically having a lot of those, alleged filler episodes that didn't really move the plot along, and was just kind of adventure of the week. And there's room for that in these shows, but so far, like even the episodes of 2 and 4 feeling like, quote, adventure of the week, it was like adventure of the week with a purpose, Yeah. So, I'm assuming you feel similarly.
I do. Yeah. I think this, like I said before, I think that even though this kind of feels like the adventure of the week thing, it still serves the plot. It's still Omega and Crosshair trying to go from point A to point B. It's not like we're just meandering here for no specific reason. They're here because they crash landed here, and it's Hemlock's hot on their trail, and they're developing their dynamic here, and then they're trying to get back to Hunter and Wrecker.
Yeah.
So like there is a lot of purpose there in that episode. So I think it was good.
I definitely think this season, like, we're going to get those Adventure of the Week episodes, and I'm okay with that. I think one thing that has really shaped my view of television has been D&D, tabletop role-playing games.
Oh, yeah.
You and I both play D&D or various forms of tabletop games, and
we do.
Not, I mean, it depends, I guess, party to party, but in my experience with most D&D things, like unless it's a tight, 3-shot campaign, like usually on a long-term campaign, not every session is gonna be this like, wow, that moved the plot so far, and that's kind of life in a way. Like sometimes you have episodes like where it's just kind of it's an adventure of the week, right? And that doesn't mean that it's bad, but I think about like Pathfinder, because I play Pathfinder, it's still basically pseudo D&D, and I think like we just recently had a session where it was a 2-part thing where we had like this really big battle in this town, and it was awesome. And I think if I was to view that as a TV show, people would be like, oh man, that was so filler. Like, how did that progress the plot? But we had like really good character moments and stuff. And that's what comes out of that, right? Is those dialogue between players and NPCs. And that's what a TV show, at least with Star Wars TV shows like this, with Mando and Bad Batch and Clone Wars, that's kind of how that feels. And I think that has impacted my viewing of shows like this in a very positive way. But I don't know, just me.
No, you're 100% right. I think it's kind of like what we were saying for Ahsoka. Like, don't forsake the forest for the trees, right?
Right.
Because there's we're gonna get to that endpoint. But the reason why you love these characters is because you love those moments of them doing their stuff. Like, so you could theoretically have like a Bad Batch movie where it's point A to point B, with all that stuff. But that's how serialized shows work. Yep. They're meant to have these adventures, but also, you're 100% right. Where it gives us time for these character moments to have them grow with each other. In this specific episode alone, we had a lot of character growth with Omega and Crosshair as their dynamic. But then you can think about in season 2. In that episode with the mine, and we have that moment with Ahsoka and Tech. We have that moment with Omega and Tech, and Tech basically talks to her about how he expresses emotion.
Yeah.
Saying that like just because I'm not outwardly expressing myself in that way doesn't mean that I feel any less than you do.
Yeah.
Which that is like one of the best moments for Tech, and it's in a completely arguably kind of filler episode.
Yeah. And it serves a lot to his character and his sacrifice, where towards the end, like, he's not emotional in that moment, but he's feeling that moment. He knows what he has to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good storytelling. Good stuff.
Good fiction.
And even then I'm thinking, like, we were talking about Ahsoka, and I've really been reminiscing on Ahsoka, and I just, man, I really love that show. I've had like when it first came out, I was like, man, I really like this, and then I got to a low point where like people says this sucks. Should I think it sucks? And then I was like, no, this doesn't suck. That's how I feel right now, where I'm like, I liked that show. And I think it was episode 3. It was the week after the premiere where they're heading towards Cetos. And there's like, and Ahsoka's doing the whole thing where she does the flip and takes out the starfighter and stuff. Like, that episode wasn't a filler episode, but it was kind of adventure of the week, but that felt like, that feels like a D&D session right there. Like, these are the characters, they're going to the objective, and it's like, they're flying there and they have to deal with this stuff, and they land on the planet and they're scoping out everything, right? Like, that stuff. Yeah. I like that. Guys, if you haven't, go play D&D. It's really fun.
I think this day and age, we get really caught up in the idea of plot and filler.
Yeah.
I think people, for some reason, think that just because there isn't an intensely narrative thing happening right then and there, it is somehow unnecessary.
Yep.
And with that logic, you could cut out like 1 billion parts of every single Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could cut out like the attack on Coruscant, because inevitably they end up rescuing the Chancellor anyway. You could just say, Dooku died, or whatever. Like, you could say Obi-Wan doesn't go to Utapau, Grievous dies. Obi-Wan could have been anywhere, right? It's just, I don't know. I think people we're kind of in this age of critique where everyone is suddenly a critic.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like that joke where they say everyone's a critic, but it's kind of true now. True, like, why why are you mad? You're watching your favorite characters like have adventures and like progress with each other, progress as people. If you wanted it to be this way, we could have the episode start with them escaping Tantus, and then the second episode they go back to Tantus and it's over. It's a 2-episode season. I hope you enjoyed it. It's filling for a reason. If you bit into a cake and it was just the icing, there wouldn't be enough. You gotta have the bread too. Yeah. It's called filler for a reason, man. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's tangential at this point. Just enjoy it.
No, you're right. Like, as long as it's not filler, as long as it's adding even a little bit to character development, right? Just seeing how a character operates, right? I think Rebels is a show that does that pretty well, where like, there's a lot of episodes that people could dub as filler, and the more that I think about it, like, they're not filler because you're getting attached to this family. You're seeing them go on, adventures that don't necessarily pertain to the like overall plot, but that's kind of the point. You're seeing like, Zeb and Ezra interact and them coming closer, or Sabine and Ezra, or Hera and Kanan, and it's like we're getting these little slices of life with this family, and Bad Batch is kind of that same way. Like, it's why I like that sort of stuff, because you think about the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy as well. Like, those little interactions of like, say, Obi-Wan and Anakin in the elevator in Attack of the Clones. Yeah. Like, that's... Yeah. Someone would be like, oh, that's, irrelevant. Like, no, that scene adds a lot to their characters, right? And so, an episode like this where it's like, I could just skip this episode. It's like, no, like, this episode does a lot for Crosshair and Omega's relationship, because they've barely interacted in this whole show. Yeah, they've been at opposite ends. Space for that. Yeah, they gotta come together, and I think that unification is what's gonna assemble the Bad Batch together again, and not make them whole because they're still missing one of their brothers, but at least try to make a complete puzzle. Man, good stuff. Good discussion.
Good stuff. Good discussion. Great episode. Can't wait for next week. Yep. Even if it is like this supposed filler, right? I'm gonna enjoy it. I don't care.
Yeah, at this point, I'm at this point now where I'm like, I just love Star Wars. I just want to I want to experience. I like seeing an episode every week.
I love these characters. I want to spend more time with them, because this is, probably gonna be the last season where we get to do so.
Yeah, it's life moves fast. You're gonna be like, oh, let's get the plot, and then before you're gonna be like, man, I wish we had more time. And it's like, these episodes give us more time. That's the nice thing about television. Chat pack.
Let's break it out.
Chat pack, baby. Oh, I'm gonna pull literally the very first one. I don't even know. This is number 1.
All right.
Just gonna pull number 1. Wow, good stuff. Who do you think is the bravest character in Star Wars?
Ooh. The bravest character.
One that immediately comes to mind, and in lieu of the Bad Batch, is 99.
99, yeah.
I think maybe not necessarily brave, but he has a very deep and honorable spirit, and he doesn't really fear a whole lot.
The one that immediately came to mind for me was actually R2D2.
Dude, that's a good answer.
Our R2 is like constantly in the weeds, and I mean, as we know, like, droids can and will express fear, even if it is a form of programming, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But like, R2 is in it all the time.
Yeah.
I would say he's really up there for me.
I have a good answer. Luke, of course. Yeah. I was gonna say, out of the original trilogy, other than R2, Leia. Leia is
100%
is fearless, which is why, again, it's why she's like it makes a perfect candidate for a Jedi. Like,
I agree. She's got the bravery in there.
Think about Kenobi when she's being interrogated by Reva, like, as a like 9, not even like a 10-year-old girl. She's just like stone, like she's like, I'm not scared. Like she fakes being scared, you know? Like
she's very good at that. She's definitely her parents' daughter.
Yes. Yeah. Just gets it from Padme. Another good candidate.
Yeah, another great candidate. Anakin, another great candidate. Obi-Wan, another great candidate, dude.
Obi-Wan is very up there. I'd put him maybe top 3. R2 is a really good answer, though. I want to maybe we pull one. So if we had to choose one from the prequel trilogy, one from the original trilogy, and then one from the sequel trilogy, who do you think? And I know there's some consistent characters with R2 and 3PO and stuff, but
this is gonna sound biased, but I think my choice for the prequel trilogy is Obi-Wan.
I agree.
Because I think it takes a supreme amount of bravery to go and face Anakin.
I was gonna say Darth Maul, man. He's ready.
Darth Maul too.
No, I'm saying like.
Like to face Maul. I know what you're saying.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because like in that moment, like his master was just killed, and then he runs in there ready to fight.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go.
Even when he gets captured by Dooku, he's not afraid. He's just hanging out.
He gets captured by Dooku. When him and Anakin face down Dooku at Attack of the Clones, and Anakin gets taken out, Obi-Wan stays his blade and stands his ground. But I think it's just the supreme amount of bravery to go to Mustafar and face down Anakin / Vader. I just think that, and even more so after the Kenobi show, dude. Like that's all about Obi-Wan's bravery. So I think that he's my pick for the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I have to agree. And
you want to go first for original?
Yeah, I'll go for original. I was also just gonna say, like, since we already did say R2, he's in all 3 trilogies. So I kind of consider him like the main like secondary character, or like he's up there because he's in all 3, and in all 3 trilogies he is, like you said, he's fearless. Like, and you mentioned kind of like programming and everything, and it's like, no, like you're right. Droids can have fear. Think about 3PO is a nervous wreck. He's always like he's always skittish. So yeah, I think R2 is kind of that tertiary, kind of over encompassing one. I think for me, I mean it's tough.
Well, I guess an argument for 3PO, an argument could be made that just because you're nervous, it doesn't mean you're not brave. In fact, it means the opposite, right? Like nervousness. Like being nervous and going into something anyway implies bravery.
Yeah,
but
there's also a lot of moments where he's like, nope, not doing that.
Yeah, he's like I don't want to do that. Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's definitely R2. So
yeah,
so original trilogy.
It's really, dude. All 3 of the main characters are extremely brave.
They are.
Unfortunately, I will have to eliminate Han, as there are moments where he is definitely like. Kind of just like he's a little, and that's fine. That creates a humanity for Han. I think about when he like runs headfirst into the stormtroopers, and then he's like, it just runs away. So it comes down to Luke and Leia, and it's really hard because they're very much the children of Anakin and Padme.
Yeah, they are. I almost feel tempted to just give both of them the vote.
Yeah, like give them a tie?
Because they're twins. Yeah. I mean, like I think if Leia had more of a chance to be brave, she would have those big moments. Sometimes, especially in Return of the Jedi, I feel like she gets shafted a lot. But she like. Supreme bravery in A New Hope against Vader, against Tarkin, being imprisoned in the Death Star. She never loses her cool. And then also with Luke, Luke has a supreme amount of bravery, just going and standing in front of Vader and the Emperor, and has the audacity to toss his lightsaber aside defiantly right in front of the Emperor, which even in Empire, like,
he says he's not afraid. And while that's probably not true, he still does it. He still confronts Vader with little to no fear. Like he walks up confidently to Vader and pulls out his lightsaber, you know?
And when Vader offers like his hand, like join me, Luke takes his odds from this fall that he doesn't know, you know, if he'll survive.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an act of, you know, I'm just gonna die here instead. Yeah, he's like, I will take my chances.
Right, rather than joining you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's insane.
I think if we had just more moments with Leia, I'd put her, she's very close, but we'll say a tie. I think I'm leaning more towards, just slightly towards Luke, but Leia, you know, I think it's just if the roles were reversed, if Leia was the Jedi and Luke wasn't, I think Leia would ultimately take the cake.
I agree. I think, I really just think Leia needed more of a chance, but also, just a great demonstration of bravery on her end is just to keep going after she loses her family and her planet.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a tremendous amount of bravery. I know a great deal of us would be absolutely despondent, but she takes the time to console Luke, who just lost the old man that he's been, you know, traveling with for a couple days.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a lot of nuance there. So yeah, we'll give the vote to both of them, I think.
Yeah. Sequel trilogy. We got to come together on this one because this is tough. I'm thinking about
sequels?
It. Yeah.
I think I will. Well, at first I knew immediately who I was gonna say, but now I'm thinking.
I think I have my pick. I think.
I want to say Rey.
Think so?
Yeah. I want to say Rey.
I say Finn.
You see, Finn was what I was thinking on there, because especially the come get it scene, against Kylo, takes a whole lot of bravery, and he's very devoted to his people. But I think Rey just constantly shows that good Jedi bravery. You know,
yeah.
I think she is a great example of the courage of a Jedi. Facing down Kylo in The Force Awakens, going, you know, not losing her cool in the interrogation scene, taking care of herself on her own at the beginning of the movie. The Last Jedi, like having the bravery to stand up to Luke and tell him what's what, and to leave and to go seek out Kylo on her own.
Yeah.
Going to the what was that ship called? The Supremacy or something like that?
I think so.
But going there knowing that Kylo and Snoke are gonna be there.
Yeah.
And then also in The Rise of Skywalker facing down Palpatine, right? Like there's just a lot of tests of bravery there.
Yeah.
And I just think that she just constantly shows us again and again that, like, yeah, she is just the culmination of the Jedi spirit that is manifested within the Force.
I think she experiences a lot of fear, but even through that was why I was aiming towards Finn, but I think you've convinced me. I think it has to be Rey, and that's mainly because you see her out of all of the main protagonists. And this is a testament to Daisy Ridley, she experiences fear a lot in those movies. From when she opens the chest to find the lightsaber and she's like, I'm never touching that thing ever again, to being kind of stalked and captured by Kylo in The Force Awakens. And even when she pulls the lightsaber, or when Han is killed, when she pulls the lightsaber and she's facing down, you can see on her face, like, she's scared, right?
Yeah.
But and you go on to The Last Jedi, the things that you mentioned, right? Facing Luke and being able to go to face Kylo and Snoke on her own. And then Rise of Skywalker, like, facing her destiny of the truth of her being, like, you know, not just the nobody, being she's genetically a Palpatine, but that doesn't shape her destiny, right? She's scared of that within herself. She runs away from it, but ultimately she decides it's the choices, right? It's at the end of the day, being brave doesn't mean without fear. It means
Yep.
going into the darkness when you're still afraid and being like, I'm going to do this anyway, right? It's literally like the visual I have is if you go down into your basement to your laundry room and it's pitch black and it's midnight and you're like, I'm going to go down there with the lights off anyway. And I'm scared, but I'm going to do it, right? I'm ready. That's what Rey does constantly, you know? And I'm not saying that like, you know, the other Jedi, right? But like, she's the culmination of the Jedi spirit. Man, I love discussions like this because it makes me appreciate the sequels so much more.
Yeah, me too. Confronting fear is the destiny of the Jedi, man.
Yep, that's bravery.
I think it's pretty. I mean, it's easy for me, man. Like she takes the bravery token from the sequel trilogy. Now Finn really does hold that second spot for me, I think. But Rey, it's kind of a no-brainer. And I can't wait to see what they do. With the new Jedi Order movie with her.
Me too, man. I'm gonna say one last character and one honorable mention for me, and feel free to give yours as well. I gotta say the one character that is not part of the movies that I think also deserve it is Ahsoka. She's I don't even need to say anything. It's Ahsoka. And my honorable mention is probably Din Djarin, Mandalorian. I think he's a very fearless character.
Yeah, that's very true.
And he's someone who also if he does experience fear, like he's really good at hiding it and just going into it anyway. Like he's brave. Like he goes down that hallway in Mando season 3 and he's like, he preps himself. So those are my two kind of last picks. What is your like maybe outside and kind of I guess backup character, and maybe we can nail it down to one?
I think my honorable mention is Fives.
I think good pick.
And it's almost I mean not only because he's a clone and it simply takes a great deal of bravery to exist as a clone is for what their purpose is, but his final arc where it's this one man espionage basically where he uncovers the truth and manages to get an audience with the Chancellor only to find that he's in on it and escapes and has the bravery to contact Rex and try to, like uncover the truth like that. I mean, like he was it was like enemies from all sides on that point, kind of thing. And it's because of his bravery that the thing about the inhibitor chips was uncovered, and Ahsoka was able to, save Rex, and Ahsoka maybe actually would have died if Rex's chip had not been removed in that point.
We wouldn't be here where we are in the Bad Batch without Five's contribution.
Exactly. He uncovered the truth, and Fives was the start of the Clone Rebellion. I mean,
you're right.
So yeah, I think he's my honorable mention. But as for the number one most brave Star Wars character, I feel inclined to say R2.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think it comes down to 3 characters for me, and I have to like figure out, I got to narrow it down. And I think we can only really base it on what we, of course, I mean, this is only logical, of what we have seen from the characters. And I you know what? I'm cool with R2. My other 2 characters I was thinking of was either Obi-Wan or Rey. But I think R2 is consistently brave at all times, from episode 1 when he first shows up, he is the brave little astromech that could, and he goes up there and he fixes the ship. In episode 2, he is with them at all times. He saves 3PO's butt. He saves Padme and Anakin on the conveyor belt. Like he's not pulling any punches. He's doing everything. Episode 3, he's on Anakin's starfighter. He is like Anakin's number one guy, which I also never realized this until recently. I think it is so sweet that Anakin and Padme switch droids. Did you ever notice that? That like, that like, it was like R2 was a Naboo droid that was with Padme basically from the get-go, right? He's watching her like when she's trying to get assassinated and everything, and he builds 3PO, and then 3PO ends up becoming Padme's assistant, and R2 becomes Anakin's astromech. Literally, when they got married, they were like, "Oh, rings? No, here's a droid." Like, that's just,
man, that's so sweet.
Like, I love it. It adds so much to their characters. But yeah, I'm gonna say R2. I agree with you.
R2 it is.
Yeah, R2 the GOAT.
That's why he's the GOAT.
If I make a reel of this, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put in a clip of that at the very end. That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the GOAT.
That's perfect.
Well, I believe that is going to do it for this episode. Cole, where can they find you?
Ooh, you can find me at the.cosmic.drifter on Instagram and on YouTube at the Cosmic Drifter. I make very cool gaming videos. Please check them out.
You should definitely do that. Link is in the description if you are watching on YouTube.
Sir.
You can find me on Instagram at Shradester8, but more importantly, you can find both of us, even though it's mainly me who runs the account, so this is why it's more important, but it's still the embodiment of both of us, at Mortis FM on Instagram and YouTube. And you can find us on TikTok at Mortis_FM. I don't know if we had a TikTok last episode. I honestly don't remember. I think we did, but if you don't know, now you know. And if you're listening wherever you're at, we appreciate you. And if you have not subscribed or liked yet, and you like what you're hearing, you like our opinions, or maybe you don't like your opinions, but maybe at some point you will, hit the subscribe button. That would mean a lot to me and to Cole, I think.
Yeah, it'll definitely mean a lot to me. Voice your opinions, not too loudly though. Please tell us what you liked, what you didn't.
Yeah.
And stay tuned for more. Bad Batch next week.
Bad Batch episode 5.
See you there. But Grayson, I only have one last thing to say. May the Force be with you.
Always.